Hi, everybody. Welcome to Life Stories Podcast, People Helping People. I'm Shara Goswick, your host. My guest today is Asha Mevlana. Asha is the lead violinist for the Trans-Siberian Orchestra West Coast Tour, which is amazing in and of itself. But she also has had a very interesting journey. Asha is a mom. She is an author. She's written a book. She also has been through breast cancer twice. I love the way Asha wants to encourage people on the journey that she's been on, and her perspective on life is fabulous. I loved talking to her. I loved hearing part of her story. And I encourage you, after you listen to this conversation, go to her website, check out all the things that she's done and is doing, and send it to someone that you know might be encouraged. Thanks for being here. Asha, I'm so excited to talk to you. You've done some very cool things that I can't wait to ask you about. But tell me about your journey. I know there was a point in your life that something happened and it kind of changed the way you looked at life and the decisions that you made. So tell me about that story.
Yeah, so I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts, and I just was kind of like everyone else, and I was, gonna go to college and do the corporate thing like all my friends did, and like my parents were kind of encouraging me to do. And I had a job in New York. I was working in public relations, and then at 24, I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Mm.
And at the time, that was 1999. So at that time, the doctors had really never seen breast cancer in anyone that young, so they were
Yeah.
really shocked. Obviously, I was shocked because 'cause I'd only ever been healthy, and that just kind of, you know, tore up my life at that moment.
Yeah.
Said, "You have breast cancer." I was like, "But wait a second, what does that mean? Does that mean I'm gonna die? Like, I haven't even lived yet," you know? And so
Yeah.
that was really the moment that kind of started everything, that started changing everything in my life.
Yeah. You said that this isn't a cancer story, it's a story about permission. What does that mean exactly?
Well, I think before cancer, I I really had been afraid to like take risks. I only want to do things I was successful at. And the cancer diagnosis really gave me an opportunity to reprioritize
Yeah.
and say, you know what, you can take risks. You can try all these different things out. And at that time, being 24, you really feel invincible. And at that point, I was like, well, I might die in a year. Like, what do I do? What have I not done that I've always wanted to do?
Right.
Too scared of? And
Yeah.
so it just gave me permission to sort of be like, "Okay, let's just try everything. It doesn't matter if I fail because I could be dead anyway." Yeah, so during this really terrifying time, I started making a list for myself, like all the things I've ever wanted to do that I've never tried. One of them was traveling. Had traveled maybe a little bit, but not ever like extensively, definitely not really abroad. I wanted to become a musician. I always played violin since I was 6 years old, but
Wow.
I never like, I just thought, "Oh," I mean, everyone told me, "Being a musician, it's too hard, such a risk, you're
Right.
never gonna be a musician." And so, of course, I believed them, and I thought, "Okay, well, I guess that's not for me. I can do it for fun." But at that point, I was like, when I'm done with all my, the surgery, chemo, radiation, all that stuff, I'm gonna move to Los Angeles, and I'm gonna become a rock musician." I know it's
Wow.
like classical, but, I decided I wanted
Yeah.
to be a rock musician. And I
Yeah.
knew it all along, I just had never really pursued it.
Pursued it. So what was that process like? Like, how does that even work? I don't even know how all that works.
Well, yeah, so, I gave myself maybe a year and a half before I actually moved to LA, and I was still really scared, but I remember going to LA for something, and I had this kind of a friend who I
Mhm.
hadn't seen in a while, and I was sitting with her, she's like, "Oh, it's so easy to be a musician out here." She wasn't a musician, but she introduced me to all these musicians out there, and then I called up my, like, roommates, my jobs, everything when I was there, and I quit everything. And the next morning, I was like, "Oh, no. What did I do?" And so I literally flew back to New York, packed up my stuff, and then I moved to LA.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
there was one person, and I had some distant cousins, and they said I could live with them. So I remember being on the plane with 2 suitcases, landed in LA, and thinking, "Oh, no, this is, like, such a huge mistake. Like, what am I doing?"
Oh my gosh, I'm sure that was scary. That's a big change.
Yeah.
Did you apply to try out for the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, or did you do something first and then it led into that?
Oh, yeah, I did so many things in LA. I was in LA for quite a while, and doing random gigs. I mean, but everything kind of led to other things or bigger and bigger
Yeah.
and more exciting. I remember I was, in the American Idol band, like Mary Orchestra, like, yeah, so I played with a bunch of different artists like that. I got a chance to play at the Grammys. I was on tour with, Gnarls Barkley, who was big at the
Wow.
time. And so every thing kinda led to another. I joined this Australian rock band, and we were signed to Universal Records, and we'd moved actually to Australia to release the record. And then while we were there, everything fell apart. We got dropped, and I was like, okay, I guess my music career is over. This is like maybe 10 years into, being a musician in LA.
Ye
So I actually moved back to Boston. I went to film school and I was like, well, I really like doing like video editing and things like that. So maybe I'll try that. And while I was there finishing up film school, I got a call from the Trans-Siberian Orchestra and had seen a video of me on YouTube and actually in a bar in Texas, like on the
Oh
bar
my goodness.
doing headbanging. So yes, they called me and I flew to Florida and yeah, and I got the job right there.
That is wild. That is wild. So what has that been like? Because you've got so many different parts of your journey, but tell me about that one. Traveling and what all you've gotten to do through them.
Well, it was actually kind of a crazy audition that I'll tell you because, I remember I wanted this job so badly, but I was like, "This is a dream job." But, I mean, I had known a couple people who had it before. There's only one lead violinist, and so that's what I was auditioning for, and all I knew is that they wanted someone super confident who, like, could perform on a large stage in arenas, and I had performed, but I definitely did not consider myself like I've never been like a lead violinist on a stage in an arena before. I've played with other
Sure.
so I was pretty scared. Um, but I remember preparing for this audition and I said, okay, the, I mean, obviously I practiced the music, but the thing I practiced most was confidence. And I was like, how do I walk into this room and be confident? And I remember like the morning of, I practiced how I was going to walk in, how I was going to take my violin out, how I was going to stand, all this stuff. And yeah, so I walked into the audition room and they're like, okay, so over here, like there's a little space for you to, take out your violin and play. I go, "Oh, that is definitely not enough room for me to play. I need this entire room to play." And I was acting like a diva. In my head, I'm like, "Who are these?"
Oh my gosh.
And so I just like I was a different person. I don't know who I channeled, but it was not me.
Wow.
And I was running around and then they hired me on the spot. So yeah. So that was
That's awesome. I love it.
yeah. So, but I mean, it's really been such a dream job. The people I've been touring for 15 years now with
Wow.
them, and it's really family. I mean, because we spend
Yeah.
holidays together, like, because we're on tour from end of October through end of December.
Oh, wow.
And so, and we can't go home for holidays, so we spend all of our holidays together.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're literally my family.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I wanna know about your tiny home. I wanna know, how did that get started? And you were on Tiny Home Nation on
Yes.
TV, like, that's very cool. That is very cool.
Yeah, so that was kind of a crazy story too, because I one of my friends is a host of Tiny House Nation.
Wow.
And I remember being really interested in tiny houses. I love the idea of just like living with the things that bring you joy. I'd read
Sure.
that book by Marie Kondo, The
Mhm.
Life-Changing Magic of Tidying, and I love that concept.
Huh.
So I was living in New York City at the time, and he encouraged me to apply for the show. So I applied for it, and I think because I knew him, it was like fast tracked.
Oh, yeah.
It's months long, like vetting, all this stuff. And a week later, they said, okay, we're accepting you. We're going to build your house next month. Where do you have land? And I was like, I don't have land. And so my brother lives in Arkansas and he
Mhm.
was in real estate and he had a piece of land. And he said, well, you can build the house on this piece of land if you want.
Mm.
So I did that. Meanwhile, I was like, I have never thought about living in Arkansas. It's not where I want to live.
Right.
But I went through the whole process and they built this like house that was Uh, it was so stunning to me. It was, like, the most
Yeah.
perfect house for me.
Yeah.
And it looks like a gigantic Marshall amp.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's so cool.
yeah, it was it was so stunning. I remember just being so blown away, like,
Yeah.
when the reveal happened. Um, and yeah, and so I lived right around the corner from my brother, and then a year later, my mom moved there too, so
Oh, wow.
it's,
That is awesome. And I know that you're a mom. I'm going through all of these, adventures that you have because I want to ask you a question about everything in the end. But I know that becoming a mom was a long journey for you as well. That was very important to you, but it was quite a journey for you.
yeah, that was, yeah, I remember I had, dated throughout my life, and I remember I set a time limit for myself. I said, "If I turn 40 and I'm still single and I haven't found a guy, I'm gonna do it on my own." And, of course, I thought in my heart I would find someone, and then 40 happened. It's like, "Oh, no. What do I do?" And so I started the whole process of, like, finding a donor. I started the IVF process. I It was really, really long process and,
Yeah.
um, yeah, and pretty devastating. It was, at points. I had a couple miscarriages, and then finally, I sort of gave up, and then I remember, I think it was around maybe COVID, one of my friends kinda said to me, like, I had 1 embryo left, and they said, "Are
Mm.
you gonna, regret not doing anything with that embryo if you don't do anything with it?" And I said, wow, yeah, I actually will. I mean, I thought about it every day. I just think
Sure.
I put my body through that again after being on, like, hormones for 2 years, and it really affected my body.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, and then so I thought about it, and then I just was like, "I don't know if I can do this to my body." I think I was at that point maybe 46 or something. Uh,
Wow.
so then I was really lucky because I was able to find a surrogate, and she is the most amazing person. I just love her. So now I have a 3-year-old boy.
Oh, wow, that's so exciting. I think what impresses me most, you've done some awesome things, but what impresses me most is your decision after your cancer diagnosis, because I feel like everybody should have that perspective. When you said, "Let's just do it. Let's make a list. Let's think about all the things that I wanna do, and let's just do it." I think everybody should live like that, and not everybody can do all the things that you've been able to do, but we should all have that perspective that this life is short and we only get one. And so it just impresses me so much that you made that decision. And man, what an inspiration for people to get to watch you and follow your journey.
Well, I think, like, a lot of people will look at my life or me and say, "Wow, you're, so fearless." And I'm like, You have no idea. I'm so afraid of absolutely everything. I'm probably the most afraid person ever." But I think the difference is that when I feel that little pit in my stomach of like,
Mm.
"Oh, this feels really uncomfortable and I don't think I wanna do this," that's like my cue to be like, "Okay, I guess we're gonna do this." Because
Yeah.
what I've found, and it's really a muscle that you keep going, and, like, and now I'm much more comfortable with trying and taking risks than I
Right.
used to be. I'm much more comfortable living in the unknown, which I never used to be. Um, but what I've found is the things that have been hardest or the things that are the most scary are always the things that I learn the most from.
Yeah.
And also, it's not really about failing. I don't really care so much about, like, quote, "failing" anymore. It's just like, "Okay, let's have this experience and see what I learn from it."
Sure. In all these things that you made this list of stuff you wanted to do and you've gone out and tried it and done it. What have you learned about yourself through all of this?
Um, I would say, well, I think if I were I'm pretty hard on myself, but I think if
Mm.
I actually sit down and, like, say it and I look at the things I've done, I would say that I'm pretty courageous because I am scared of
Yes.
it. Um, and I also keep going. I mean, I think people see the successes, like, they'll look at my website and see all the happy points, and then it's not been all happy. It's been a lot of, like, really low points, but I've just kept going, and I
Mm.
think that's been really important. There's a lot of times I coulda just, like, checked out and be like, "I just can't do this anymore."
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you are very inspirational, and especially, I think about young people who are getting ready to go to college or getting ready to decide what they're gonna do, and they feel like they have to have everything figured out. I mean, I didn't have everything figured out at that time in my life. I don't know that anybody really does, but I think they could look at your story and be inspired by what you're doing and think about this whole big world that they have and possibilities. There's just so many possibilities, of things that they can do. What is your favorite thing that you're doing right now?
Well, I mean, to be honest, it's being a mom. I
Right.
love it. My life has just totally changed, and it's so challenging
Mm.
a lot of times.
Mhm.
But it's just I think the thing that's so special about it is, like, I'm really brought back to the present, and that's what I really have worked on, like, trying to be present, and with him, I have to be present at all moments. It's like he brings me right back, and
Right.
and that's great.
Yeah, it's so rewarding, but it's so hard sometimes.
Yes.
But it's I can't imagine my life without it. So I know you're working on a documentary?
Yeah.
Or is it already
Well, it's kind of in process, so it's a
okay,
long yeah,
okay.
yeah. I did so, in 2024,
Mhm.
I went with 20 families who I'd never met. It was called The Traveling Village, and I love to travel, and so I remember when my son was born, I was like, "How do I travel and be a single mom? I don't feel totally comfortable doing that. Like, I can travel by myself easily, but with
Yeah.
him, it's tricky." And so I really wanted to find a community. And so I was online late one night, and I found this group called Traveling Village. It's this, 4 couples from kind of all over the world, um, creating a traveling village. And so they were going to Asia for 4 months.
Wow.
And, I immediately was like, "This is what I need to be doing." So I emailed him, and luckily, like, the deadline was the next morning. I have
Oh my
my
goodness.
and so I did it, and, uh, it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
Really?
It was so challenging because my son was turning I think he turned 2 on that trip,
Oh, wow.
and, missing naps, not having food, trying to find diapers in random countries, like,
Wow.
it was really, really hard. Yeah. And, yeah, there was I mean, I cried almost every night saying, like, "What did I do?"
Gosh.
But I it's really bad. But, the interesting thing is, well, I also had, like I was like, "I'm the only single mom on this trip, and just out of pride, like, I don't wanna be the only one who goes home." And so
Right.
I did stick it out, and I'm so glad I did, and I
Yeah.
love the people that were on this trip, and I'm actually gonna be we're having a little reunion for some of us in
Oh,
Hawaii
wow.
May.
Yeah.
And my son, it was so special for him. Like, I remember all the meltdowns in the middle of nowhere. He doesn't remember any of that. And while we were there, I did an Instagram video, like a 1-minute Instagram video every single day while we were, for every single day what happened.
Right.
And at night time, still, like even last night, he still asked to see, Thailand, Vietnam.
Oh,
That's my
wow.
quarantine. And he has such wonderful memories of that. There was a 10-year-old boy, Noah, who he was like his big brother,
Mm.
another girl his age, they were best friends. There were so many male role models for him, which was really important for me because I have a brother, who's amazing with him. My dad lives in New Hampshire, but it's important for me because I'm a single mom, he's surrounded by all these women and my friends, I want him to
Yeah.
have male role models, and he had that on
Sure.
the trip.
Yeah, what an experience. Oh my goodness, that's amazing.
Yeah.
If somebody is stuck, somebody in their life is stuck and, they may not be able to do what all you're doing, but they want to be courageous like you were, what advice could you give them?
I mean, I think it's easy to look at something and be like, "I wanna do that," and feel overwhelmed and then be like, "Oh, forget it, I can't do that." So I think the way that I had to do it is I really had to take baby steps, like, I did
Mm.
really, really small things at a time. I didn't go immediately and be like, "Okay, I'm gonna be brave and I'm gonna travel to, you know, um, Egypt by myself this year."
Right.
I was like, "Okay, maybe I'll take a trip to another state for, like, a day," So it's like just doing little things at a time rather than, like, the overwhelming thing. Because that's what builds that muscle, and that's what
Yeah,
helped me.
absolutely. What is there anything else that you're working on right now besides the documentary?
Well, I did just, release a book in November, and so that's kind of about my journey from, like, the first breast cancer diagnosis at 24, and then last year, I also was diagnosed again with a
Oh my
second breast
goodness.
cancer, diagnosis, and that was pretty intense,
Yeah.
and that was, like, a double mastectomy with, flap reconstruction, and I mean,
Wow.
yeah, it was intense. It
That's a lot. Yeah.
surgeries, and they didn't have a doctor in Arkansas that did that, so I had to go to New Orleans for a couple weeks, and so
Mm.
it was a lot having, like, a small child.
Yes. Yes.
So, yeah, so the book was kind of I turned 50 last year,
Yes.
and I sort of did it for myself. I've always written about my experiences and things I've learned, and I think when I turned 50, I had all these stories, but I never really did anything with them, and I was like, "No one would ever even wanna read them. Who cares?" You know? But I really did it for myself.
Yeah.
I released this book for myself. It's like I am starting a new chapter in my life,
Yeah.
and I wanted to release those stories, not think about them anymore, and now I'm like a different person, 50, and this is like the second chapter of
Yes.
life, and so, yeah, the book is called To Hell with No: Adventures in Finally Saying Yes.
Yes.
It's about my different travel experiences or just different things I've experienced, and, in each chapter, there's, like, the hell no kind of chapter, but then at the end, it's like, yes. And so how did I do it? Or things that have helped me say yes to certain things.
Yeah.
So kind of little exercises. So
Yeah. I want to read it. I love to read. I read a lot and I love biographies and I love memoirs and I love reading about people's lives. So it will be on my list to do that. Is there anything I haven't asked you about? I just think I just think I know you said you're not brave and you don't feel brave, but you are courageous. And like I said, I feel like people could look at your life and make a decision to live that way. We have one. We only have one life and it's not very long. And so I love how courageous you are. I love what you're doing. And the things that you're doing are not just little things. They're all incredible. They're all big and incredible. So I'm just very impressed with that.
Oh, I think my life has really I think that's what I realized when I wrote the book is my life really has changed. Like, the first breast
Mm.
cancer diagnosis, I was so young.
Yeah.
I was like, "Go, go, go. I'm just gonna accomplish things and trying to get things done." And the second time around was so different. It was like, I want calm and peace. I don't need to be checking off, like, all the my I had a fear list of all the things I was scared of, and I was like, I I finished that. I don't need to, like, put myself in all these really fearful things anymore just to prove, something. This is really I think the second part of my life is really about more presence and being more gentle with myself.
Yeah, I love that. I turned 52 years ago, and I feel like I'm just getting started. Like,
Right.
to me, this is just the beginning of life. So it's a good thing. 50 is a good thing. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I am so glad I got to talk to you today, and I can't wait to share this with people. I will have your information available so they can read all about your adventures and find your book and know how to follow you. So you were on the West Coast tour. So y'all do what is that? California, like all that
Say
region?
we're West Coast, but we do California all the way over to Florida.
Oh.
So,
So
yeah,
did you come through Texas?
we do.
When at the end of the year?
It changes up, but yeah, I think we play, like, 3 different cities in Texas.
Okay, I'm gonna have to figure out when that is. I'm out, I
Like
could go to Dallas. I'm sure it's Dallas. I'm sure
oh,
Dallas
Dallas,
is one of
yep,
them.
Dallas.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm looking it up. I'm gonna verify with you before I buy tickets to make sure this is the one that you're on, but, oh, that would be so
Be
cool.
awesome to be in person, yeah.
Yes, yes, that would be great. Well, this has been wonderful. I loved talking to you
Nice.
today.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I will be in touch soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.